Every evening, just before the diner closed, when the neon, open, sign hummed and flickered like it was too tired to keep glowing, the same boy appeared at the door. He never walked in right away. Instead, he pushed the door open just a few inches, letting a thin strip of warm light fall across his face as he peeked inside. It was always the same cautious look, quick, searching, almost apologetic. His clothes were clean, but worn in a way that told their own story. The sleeves of his sweater stopped short of his wrists, and the fabric had gone soft and thin from too many washes. His jeans had a small tear near the knee, carefully stitched by hand. His shoes didn't quite fit, the heels slipping slightly as he walked, like they had belonged to someone else first. Marta noticed him the third time he came. At first, she had thought he was just lingering, maybe waiting for someone who never showed up. But when she saw him again, and then again, always at the same hour, always with that same hesitation, she understood. "Come in already," she called one evening, not looking directly at him as she wiped down the counter. "You're letting all the heat out." The boy froze for a second, like a stray cat unsure whether it was safe to approach. Then, slowly, he opened the door wider and stepped inside, closing it carefully behind him as if afraid of making too much noise. He didn't take a seat. He stayed near the entrance, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes fixed on the floor. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said quietly. Marta glanced at him, her expression softening. "Good," she replied, "because I don't have time for trouble. Sit down." She nodded toward a small table near the window. He hesitated, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, as if expecting to be told to leave at any moment. But hunger pushed him forward, and he finally sat, perching on the edge of the chair. Marta disappeared into the kitchen without another word. A few minutes later, she returned with a bowl of hot soup and half a sandwich. Steam rose from the bowl, filling the air with warmth. She set it in front of him. "Eat." The boy stared at the food for a moment, almost stunned. Then he picked up the spoon and began, careful and deliberate, as though each bite mattered more than the last. He didn't rush. He didn't devour it like someone starving. Instead, he ate slowly, stretching the meal, making it last. His eyes occasionally flicked up, checking if anyone was watching, before dropping back to his plate. Marta pretended not to notice. She busied herself behind the counter, but her gaze returned to him again and again. She had seen that kind of hunger before. It wasn't loud or desperate. It was quiet, patient, and used to being ignored. When he finished, he placed the spoon neatly beside the empty bowl and stood up. "Thank you," he said, barely above a whisper. Before Marta could respond, he was already heading for the door, slipping out into the cold as quietly as he had entered. The next evening, he came back. This time, he didn't linger as long at the door. He still hesitated, but only for a moment before stepping inside. Marta didn't say anything. She simply nodded toward the same table, where a plate was already waiting. Days passed, and a routine formed without either of them speaking about it. He came just before closing. She fed him. He left. No questions. No expectations. Until one night. "Name?" Marta asked, leaning against the counter as he ate. The boy paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. For a moment, it seemed like he might not answer. "Adam," he said finally. "Well, Adam," Marta replied, "you go to school." He shrugged, eyes fixed on his plate. "Sometimes. Sometimes isn't enough," she said. He didn't respond. The silence that followed wasn't defiant, it was tired. Marta sighed quietly and let it go. She knew better than to push too hard. Instead, she began adding small extras to his meals. A piece of fruit, a wrapped sandwich, once, a slice of pie. When she placed the pie in front of him, Adam looked at it like it didn't belong to him. "It's for you," she said. He nodded slowly and saved it for last, eating it in small, careful bites. One rainy evening, he arrived later than usual. His hair was soaked, water dripping from the ends, and his hands trembled slightly as he stepped inside. "You're late," Marta said, though her tone held more concern than anything else. "Sorry," Adam murmured. "I had to help someone." Marta didn't ask who. She simply grabbed a towel and handed it to him. "Sit." As Adam dried his hair and settled into his seat, a man in a dark, well-tailored coat sat quietly in the corner booth. He had been there for a while, his untouched coffee growing cold in front of him. His sharp eyes followed the scene without interruption. He watched as Marta placed a steaming plate in front of the boy. He watched the way she adjusted the towel around his shoulders, the way Adam's posture softened slightly as he began to eat. There was no show, no audience she was trying to impress. Just kindness, given without hesitation. The man leaned back in his seat, his gaze lingering on the boy, then shifting to Marta. Something about what he was witnessing held him there longer than he intended, as if he had stumbled upon something rare, something money could not easily buy. The next afternoon, the diner was unusually quiet. The lunch rush had passed, leaving behind the faint smell of coffee and fried onions lingering in the air. Marta stood behind the counter, stacking clean plates, when a sleek black car pulled up outside. It didn't belong on that street. Its polished surface reflected the cracked pavement and faded storefronts like it had wandered into the wrong world. She barely gave it a second thought, until the door opened and the same man from the night before stepped inside. He carried himself differently in daylight. More composed, more certain. His coat was perfectly tailored, his shoes spotless despite the dusty sidewalk outside. Everything about him suggested control. "We're not open yet," Marta said, setting a plate down with a soft clink. "I know," he replied calmly. "I'm not here to eat." Marta crossed her arms, studying him more carefully now. "Then what do you want?" "The boy," he said. "Adam." The name hung in the air. Marta's expression shifted, her posture tightening slightly. "Why?" Instead of answering, the man reached into his coat and pulled out a small photograph. He placed it gently on the counter and slid it toward her. Marta hesitated before picking it up. It showed a younger version of Adam, clean, smiling, standing beside a woman whose face carried a quiet warmth. There was something familiar about her eyes, something that stirred a vague memory in Marta's mind. "That's him," Marta said slowly. "A bit younger, but that's him." "And the woman?" the man asked. Marta looked closer. "I've seen her around the neighborhood. Not often. She always looked exhausted." She paused, then added softly, "Kind, though." The man nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. "She was my sister." Marta looked up sharply. "She passed away last year," he continued, his voice steady but quieter now. "I didn't know she had a son until it was too late. By the time I found out, they were both gone from where they used to live. I've been searching ever since." Marta felt something heavy settle in her chest. "And you think Adam is?" "I know he is," the man said. "His name is Adam. His age matches. And," he gestured toward the photo. "He has her eyes." Marta glanced down. Again, then back up at him. Why didn't he say anything? The man exhaled slowly. Maybe he didn't know who to trust. Maybe he thought no one was looking for him. He paused. Or maybe he's just been surviving the only way he knows how. Marta leaned against the counter, absorbing it all. The quiet boy who came in every evening, who ate like he had learned to make food last, who never asked for more than what was given. Suddenly, his silence made a different kind of sense. "He comes every evening," she said after a moment. "Right before closing." "I'll wait," the man replied. And he did. Hours passed slowly. The diner opened, filled with the usual chatter of customers, the clatter of dishes, the rhythm of a normal day. But beneath it all, Marta felt a current of anticipation she couldn't shake. The man, Daniel, as he later introduced himself, sat in the same corner booth as the night before. He didn't rush. He didn't fidget. He simply waited, occasionally checking his watch, his expression unreadable. Marta found herself glancing at the door more often than usual. Then, as evening settled in and the sky outside dimmed, the door creaked open just a few inches. "Adam." He stepped inside, shaking a bit of cold from his shoulders, but stopped almost immediately when he noticed the man. Something in the room felt different. He could sense it. Marta approached him gently. "Adam," she said, her voice softer than usual, "there's someone here who wants to talk to you." Adam's eyes moved between her and the man. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly. "No," the man said, standing up slowly. "You didn't do anything wrong." He walked closer, stopping a few steps away, careful not to overwhelm him. Then he bent slightly, lowering himself to Adam's level. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I knew your mother." The words hit like a sudden gust of wind. Adam froze. For a moment, fear flickered across his face, the kind that comes from hearing something too big, too unexpected. His first instinct seemed to be to step back, to retreat into the safety of the familiar. But then came something else. "Hope. You knew her?" Adam asked, his voice barely steady. Daniel nodded. "She was my sister." Silence filled the space between them. "I've been looking for you," Daniel continued. "For a long time." Adam's hands tightened slightly at his sides. "I didn't know where to go," he admitted. After he stopped, unable to finish. Daniel's expression softened. "You don't have to figure it out alone anymore." He hesitated for a moment, choosing his next words carefully. "If you want, you can come with me. I'd like to take care of you. Properly." Adam didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Marta. It was a small look, but it carried everything: uncertainty, trust, fear of losing the only place that had felt safe. Marta felt her throat tighten. She forced a small smile. "It's okay," she said gently. "You don't belong to this place, Adam. You were just passing through." Adam swallowed, then slowly nodded. He stepped toward Daniel. Daniel placed a careful hand on his shoulder, not gripping, just there, steady, reassuring. For the first time since he had started coming to the diner, Adam didn't sit down at his usual table. Instead, he walked toward the door. Before stepping outside, he turned back. "Thank you," he said, his voice quiet but certain. Marta nodded, her eyes glistening. "You come visit, all right." Adam gave a small nod. Then he stepped out, the door closing softly behind him. Marta watched through the window as he climbed into the black car. The engine started, and within moments, it pulled away, disappearing into the evening traffic. The diner felt strangely still after that. For the first time in weeks, Marta looked at the clock near closing time and knew the door wouldn't open again, and somehow, that was exactly how it was meant to be.